The Shadowfell's pervasive melancholy sometimes gives rise to strange incarnations of the plane's bleak nature. Sorrowsworn embody the forms of suffering inherent to the shadowy landscape, and visit horror on those who stumble into their midst. Each Sorrowsworn personifies a different aspect of despair or distress. Today on Dave's Imagination, I'm going to give an overview of the Sorrowsworn. Stay with me. The stench of death emanates from the building ahead. As you get closer, you hear a stirring inside. Sounds of something eating, like a dog eating a dead squirrel. Look inside, you see 3 fleshy creatures standing on hind legs, their faces buried in the bowels of some poor victim. One stands erect and looks back towards you. Blood and flesh drooling from the lines of teeth in its giant maw. It shakes its head and gulps whatever food had remained in its mouth. The other 2 now lift their heads, and the 3 charge toward you. The Wretched are the lowest of the Shadowfell's Sorrowsworn. To adequately understand the Wretched, you must first understand the Shadowfell. Imagine a tree. The sun is shining, it's a beautiful summer day. The tree is full of green leaves and full of life. Birds flutter in and out of the tree as a squirrel scurries up its trunk. This is a tree in our plane of existence. This plane of existence is called the material plane. Now consider that same tree in the same spot, but focus through a couple different lenses. Focus on one side of the tree. The lens twists and the light twists as if the tree were now shrouded in the light of a rising or perhaps setting sun. The colors of the tree become more vibrant, more intense. The tree seems to emit a magic of life. You become aware of pleasant fragrances and the sounds of harmony. You might even say an aura of tiny particles are floating around the tree. This lens, or echo, of the tree exists in the Feywild, or the plane of fairy. Now we twist that lens in the opposite direction. All color is drained from the tree and is replaced by shades of gray. Well, worse yet, perhaps more accurately, shades of black. The leaves are dry and withered if they exist at all. The tree sags as if the limbs were weighed down by some external force. The visage of the tree drives melancholy, sadness, despair, depression into anyone who views it. This view, or echo of the tree, the very same tree, is in the plane of shadows, the Shadowfell. Have no doubt, this is the same tree at the same time and exists in 3 planes of existence. Our plane, the material plane, and its 2 echoes, the plane of fairy, or the Feywild, and the plane of shadows, or the Shadowfell. How the tree is experienced depends on where you stand within the planes of existence. In the material plane, as the pendulum of emotion swings widest, the veil between these 2 planes of existence narrows. During moments of great joy, let's say childbirth or budding love, during those times, the veil between the material plane and the Feywild becomes the thinnest. During moments of great sorrow, the veil to the Shadowfell becomes thin. In moments such as these, the great risk of transverse or traveling between the planes becomes the greatest. Some, with great arcane ability, can conjure portals between the planes. And as they have learned the secrets of the veil and how to slip from one plane to another. The Sorrowsworn are manifestations of the plane of shadows, manifestations of the Shadowfell. The Sorrowsworn, which each embody one of the aspects of the Shadowfell. The lowest of the Sorrowsworn are the Wretched, fleshy, pig-shaped creatures that stand on 2 legs, their face dominated by a large mouth full of row after row of sharp teeth. These horrid little monsters, the Wretched Sorrowsworn, or the Wretched, gather in packs to scour Shadowfell as they prey. These horrid little monsters, Wretched, Sorrowsworn, or the Wretched, gather in packs to scour the Shadowfell for prey. These desperate entities subsist on life force. When they find a creature, they surge forward to sink their fangs into their victims and drink deep. Do not be fooled by their bulbous shape, though. Their most prominent trait is their dexterity. They love to gang up on a creature, furling their bodies onto the creature and attaching themselves with their giant mouths as they devour the flesh and the life force of the victim at the same time. These small monstrosities are not particularly tough, if you can get through their hide, that is, as they seem to have a resistance to damage even from magical weapons. Now, taking a giant step from the Wretched are the Lost. The Shadowfell turns visitors around until they become marooned in its twisted landscape. Lost Sorrowsworn, or often referred to as the Lost, are representations of the anxiety and fear people experience when they can't find their way. These Sorrowsworn appear desperate and panicked. Lost Sorrowsworn grasp at any creature they can reach. A victim experiences a flood of fear and panic as its mind buckles under the fury of this assault. The harder the victim allies fight to break this grasp, the more the victim suffers. The Lost appear as gaunt, almost skeletal humanoids, their cheeks sunken, eyes void globes, and the mouth is ever dropped in a continual moan. Its torso is dominated not by 2 arms, but 5. Each arm ends not with a typical hand, but a saber-like extrusion. The Lost are quick, tough, and strong, and also benefit from a hide that can resist damage, even from magical weapons. The Lost look for victims full of fear and anxiety, snatching them within their grasp and squeezing them as they attack their victims' very psyche. Next amongst the Sorrowsworn are the Lonely. The sorrow of isolation afflicts many creatures that lurk in the Shadowfell, but the need for companionship is never manifested more dramatically than in the Lonely Sorrowsworn, also called the Lonely. These Sorrowsworn spot other creatures. They feel keenly the need for interaction and launch their harpoon arms to drag their victims closer. This misshapen body of the Lonely, rotund and hunched, and the Lonely plods on 2 legs, both tipped by pointy, bony pegs. Their face fat and crinkled, from its eyes ever flows black streams of tears. Its 2 arms are gangly and disjointed. Its flesh is pliable, resistant, and stretchy. The Lonely like to watch for those separated from their group and fling their harpooning arms into the target and drag them back into its domicile, where it can slowly, psychically torture and consume its victims. Beware that the Lonely gets stronger as more creatures surround it, as it psychically leeches the energy from those surround it. The Lonely are also quick and tough and strong, and also benefit from the hide that can resist damage even from magical weapons. Next amongst the Sorrowsworn are the Hungry. Horrible creatures with grasping claws and distended jaws. Hungry Sorrowsworn, also known as the Hungry, do whatever is necessary to sate their appetites. These greedy devourers stuff their maws with flesh and drink in their victims' screams. When they finish, they lurch away while their bright eyes resume their search for something else to consume. Like the Lost, the Hungry stand tall and but are gaunt. The Hungry have an oversized head with a jaw that they can disjoin to consume large amounts of food at once. The Hungry have a typical speed, but compensate that with extraordinary strength and toughness. The Hungry also benefit from a hide that can resist damage, even from magical weapons. The Hungry sense life force and grows stronger when it senses someone near it has been healed. The Hungry love to grab its target and do tremendous physical and psychic damage as it tries to consume its victim whole. Now, finally, the most loathsome of the Sorrowsworn are the Angry. Relying on violence to sustain its existence, Angry Sorrowsworn, sometimes called the Angry, grow more powerful when their foes fight back. If a creature opts not to attack, though, this Sorrowsworn becomes confused, and its attacks weaken. It also has two heads, which bicker with each other incessantly. Muscle covers, but covered by pink flesh, dominates the angry. This monstrous creature, this monstrous humanoid creature, has two arms with deadly hooks, talons instead of hands. Protruding from its shoulders are two heads, each with a face in constant anger. Two heads constantly bickering at you. The only thing it will agree on is turning its wrath toward anyone or anything that it encounters. The angry thrives on battle, and the pain it brings. It has this overwhelming sadistic desire for pain. It thrives on pain. It grows more deadly as it enjoys the pain. It takes the pain and it turns it into psychic energy that can then turn loose and use as it attacks. The angry, like other Sorrowsworn, is also resistant to most physical damage, and due to its incredible strength, toughness, and the trait of having two heads, the angry rarely ever becomes grappled, blinded, charmed, deafened, frightened, stunned, or knocked unconscious. So, that is the Sorrowsworn, the wretched, the lost, the lonely, the hungry, and the angry. What are your thoughts? What do you find the most terrifying amongst the Sorrowsworn? In my campaign, an evil wizard has opened a gate to the Shadowfell and has filled the land around his lair with these Sorrowsworn. How might you use these bad boys? Let me know in the comments. Also, if you don't mind, please take a moment to hit that like button. And if you don't mind, also, please consider subscribing. I'd really appreciate it. Until next time, I pray your life be free of sorrow and Sorrowsworn. And until next time, cheers.